What's up, everybody? It's me, Coach Mills, coming at you with the new meta tank tier list. Remember, tanks form every single meta in Overwatch, and right now, the tank situation is completely nuts as of the mid-season patch. We have tanks that are removed from the game right now. We have tanks that are so bugged that you shouldn't play them, and we have tanks that are so buffed that they are probably going to be just completely dominant in every game you play. But we're going to break it all down and talk about it, but smash that like, subscribe if you enjoy the content, and let's jump right in. Now, right off the bat, we do got to talk about Junker Queen. Junker Queen got a whole slate of buffs in the new patch. Let's just run through a couple of things that she got. More ammo on the scatter gun, easier to hit knives, a rampage that doesn't do as much wound damage but does impact damage, and finally the adrenaline rush, which is the most important thing that now allows Junker Queen to gain huge chunks of health, especially if you're hitting giant cleaves. You're just not going to be able to die in Junker Queen. Now, Junker Queen is a tank that also has the capability to hard carry like no other tank. I mean, really, you can ignore the enemy tank in a lot of matchups and just kill DPS. You hit knives to pull people out of position. You can just kill them outright. Your ultimate is insanely strong, very, very strong at just, basically turning an entire fight. And unless you are getting it like Suzu'd, and if you bait Suzu out, you're going to be able to win a ton of fights with it. Junker Queen's just the best thing to be doing. She has an insanely good ball matchup, and a lot of the brawl matchups now, like Rein and sometimes Ramattra, when Ramatra is like hard brawling you in Nemesis, you out sustain those things because you just gain so much health in brawling that person. In the dive matchups, you literally just like knife and cleave Winston or any other of the divers. Most matchups are going to be even for you, if not favorable. I think the only bad matchup that you have is on the sniper maps. You're not great against Sigma, but Sigma is right now removed from competitive, which is probably going to change as of the time you're watching this. So we're going to talk about it as if Sigma is going to be back, but still, Junker Queen is like the best thing to be doing. She's going to be forming the meta. She is super, super versatile in the compositions that you can play with her. You can play her with a dive composition with like a Tracer and a Sombra and a Lucio, and you literally use Shout to enable a dive. You can play her in a brawl composition with a Mei, with a Reaper. You can play her in really whatever composition, and Junker Queen can kind of be self-sufficient or try to go on specific plays with like a duo, like a support, right? So super, super strong, super powerful, probably only bad on the sniper maps in Overwatch, and besides that, she's going to be just the best thing to be doing right now. Now, Orisa did receive a buff from 1 damage. This is not going to really dramatically change Orisa's position, but Orisa's always like a good tank to play when you don't really think that you can tank diff the enemy tank. I know that this is kind of a weird thing to admit, but sometimes when the enemy tank is running rampant and your main tanks are not good into what they're playing. Like, let's say that there's an enemy Doomfist that's just dominating. Right now, Doomfist is bugged as hell, but let's just say he gets fixed and a Doomfist is dominating. And your main is something that just doesn't interact with Doomfist very well, right? Ramatra has a very bad Doomfist matchup, right? So let's say you're a Ramatra main. Orisa can be that tank that you whip out that could shut down the Doomfist, or at least make him heavily punish him, make him a lot harder to carry. And Orisa's going to be a little bit better now because of the more damage, but really Orisa isn't going to be establishing any metas or anything like that. For the most part, a lot of tanks are just going to be able to beat her straight up. I think that she's okay against Junker Queen, mainly because you can keep your distance and play that poke, but not as good at poking as a character like Sigma. Of course, Sigma doesn't exist. I know it's a really weird tier list this time around, but I'm still going to put her in the C tier. I think that she's fine, and she's a good tank for those of you to just have as like a flex pick, but most of the time she's not going to be the perfect pick, right? If you could play another tank, it'd probably be better. Now, Sigma's a weird one, right? Because Sigma is very strong, and on the sniper maps he's still going to be better than Junker Queen. Like, Junker Queen's going to have a hard time getting in at the snipers. There's just too much ground to make up where Shout won't be able to get you in very easily. You don't have the coordination of a scrim setting to get you in. So Sigma is going to be like one of the other like sides of the coin to the meta, because there's a lot of maps that he is needed on and he is played on. The power of snipers are just too strong, and while that is true, he's not in the game right now. He's removed. So we're in a weird situation where it's kind of like all Junker Queen until Sigma's back, but I do think that Sigma deserves S tier for the situations where he's played, because these two are probably going to establish the meta more than anything. Junker Queen's going to make up the majority of the maps, and then Sigma's going to make up the sniper maps in particular. He's a fair bit down, you know. Junker Queen's like far and away the best thing to be doing, but if Sigma was here, he would be legitimately in the S tier because of how strong he is on the maps that he's going to be played on. He is just like 100% pick rate. Very, very good. Ramattra. Ramattra is just a really great ranked pick. I don't really think that Ramattra is going to have an establishment in the high ranks of play or the pro meta, primarily because Ramattra is just kind of bad at, you know, just bad against a lot of the matchups that traditionally see pro play. Ramatra's not really good against dive right now. Junker Queen seems to be able to like easily outbrawl a Ramattra. Sigma can outpoke a Ramattra. Ramattra is very flexible, which makes him good in ranked, but in pro play right now, his power level isn't high enough relative to the rest of the cast. I do think that, especially with like the slight Ana nerf, it's not really that big of a deal, but the slight Ana nerf definitely, you know, makes it so Ana is going to be slightly less play, plus the increase in Kiriko play. I imagine that there's going to be a lot of Kiriko Lucio. So with Kiriko Lucio, I think that, you know, the Nano Ramattra is, you know, not abused as much in ranked. Still, Ramatra's a great pick. I think that for the majority of ranks and the majority of players, you'll definitely be able to carry and climb with this character. I just don't necessarily think he's going to be the best pick at all the time, like all the time. You know, as far as a flexible pick that's decent in a lot of situations, I'm going to put him in the A tier. Reinhardt is a weird one. I think that Rein is not that great right now. He was already nerfed quite a bit. And the thing is, the matchup between Rein and Junker Queen is shifting pretty hard in Junker Queen's favor, where Junker Queen could just like out-brawl Rein in a lot of ways. Shatter is still amazing, don't get me wrong, but outside of that, Junker Queen's just like so freaking strong. For the meta ranks though, players that cannot play Junker Queen properly, Rein's probably still going to be better. Rein's just amazing in the meta ranks because the intrinsic shield, Shatter's easy to do, swinging's, you know, pretty intuitive, nothing crazy. You don't have to hit any knives or do anything like that, or limit tests like hit cleaves or go in when you're low but hit a cleave and get back up to full. Like, that's a little bit more complex. Rein's still, you know, a bit underpowered though. I would say he's B. Generally he's B. For the high ranks of play and for the meta, I think he's probably more like C. But you know, because he's so good in the meta ranks, I'm gonna put him in the B tier. Next up, we do have Roadhog. Roadhog is just kind of not it. Like, not really it right now. He has been very, very weak for quite some time. He's still very weak. He has a couple of good maps, like Ilios Well, of course, but for the most part, you know, characters like Ana completely shut him down. He's not really going to be able to, you know, match up against any of the tanks right now. He doesn't really have great DPS matchups. His one-shot's not reliable. I mean, we've already kind of talked about why Hog is super, super underpowered. I think he's probably one of the most underpowered characters in the game right now outside of Lifeweaver. Doesn't really have a place in the meta. I'm putting him in the D tier. Doesn't mean you can't get value out of him, especially with his Whole Hog. Whole Hog can just solo kill Junker Queens, can cancel Ramatra's ultimates, can solo kill pretty much any tank, which is cool. But for the most part, I don't think Hog is really, you know, the pick for you unless you're like just far and away the best person in the lobby. But if you are the best person in the lobby, why aren't you just farming on Junker Queen? Like, what are you doing? Let's talk about Winston. Winston was the meta. He was the best tank pre-Junker Queen, just like coming out of nowhere and becoming cracked. The problem with Junker Queen is that she is super good against Winston, like very, very strong. Shouting and cleaving Winston, he's not going to be able to kill anyone against Junker Queen. He was just very strong, but now Junker Queen just kind of decimates what Winston was trying to do. Doesn't mean that you can't play Winston. I think a coordinated dive that really, really kind of tries to avoid the Junker Queen and punishes the DPS in particular can be good, but I'm not sure that Winston is the best tank to do that. I'm going to put Winston in the high B tier. I almost want to put Rein down one because I'm putting Winston here because I think that he's quite a bit better, but I'm just going to roll it like this. I do think that Winston is also a character that is automatically harder in the meta ranks of play. Like, he was really only meta in the top ranks of play and in pro play. So I'm going to put him here. Still think that he could get some pick rate and still be good. But yeah, he's definitely going to have a hard time in a Junker Queen environment. Hammond is an interesting one because I think that Hammond has a terrible Junker Queen matchup, by the way, like really, really bad, but he's most likely the best tank to play with a Far Mercy, which I think is one of the other ways to combat Junker Queen. Like, if you're gonna fight against the Junker Queen, Pharah Mercy is kind of the tank, like, duo, or not the tank. It's like the anti-tank strat, right? The anti-Junker Queen strat, where a good Pharah Mercy just gets to spam and just gets to keep their distance from the Junker Queen. And I think that that's really, like, another way to fight Junker Queen. I'm not entirely sure what's the best tank to run with the Pharah Mercy, but I would imagine that it's Hammond. Even though he gets hard countered by Junker Queen, I think you just have to be very, very careful of Junker Queen. Respect the knife. Try to force the Junker Queen to waste her time. And just make sure that you're not getting pulled by the knife and getting killed. I just think, like, because of Pharah Mercy and that being like a separate meta composition that will probably see play, I'm gonna put him in the A tier just based off of that. I think he's the best with Pharah Mercy. So yeah, Zarya is just not it, unfortunately. I mean, she's not like super bad. I think that you get full charge, you could do a lot, but if you're gonna brawl, it just makes sense to be playing Junker Queen right now. You just have so much power in Junker Queen, so much carry ability. For the most part, Zarya is gonna be a bit underpowered. Now, it's kind of weird though, because I don't think Zarya has the worst direct Junker Queen matchup. Kind of interesting in that regard, but against the field, Zarya is so much worse against dive, so much worse against poke, so much worse against everything. It's like Junker Queen and Zarya in the head-to-head. I think Zarya's kind of fine, actually. I think it's pretty close to 50-50. Maybe a little bit Junker Queen favored. But against the field, Junker Queen is way better than Zarya. Like, way better. So yeah, I'm actually going to put Zarya here, down in the bottom of B tier. Unfortunately, sorry, you Zarya players. Doomfist. Now, Doomfist actually could do pretty well in this meta if he wasn't broken. Right now, everything about this character is broken. His power block just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. A million things don't trigger it. They don't give him power punch, whatever. So right now he's like unplayable tier, kind of like Sigma. I mean, Sigma is literally removed, but Doomfist is like might as well be removed. The thing about it though is that if Doomfist wasn't, Doomfist would actually be pretty decent, mainly because the Doomfist Junker Queen matchup is not actually that bad. Doomfist can cancel a lot of things that Junker Queen wants to do. You can cancel her swings, you can cancel her ult, you can ignore the Junker Queen, you can never play into the Junker Queen, you can displace her when she's like maybe 2 in. I think there's a lot about the matchup that is kind of in Doom's favor, and before the buffs it was like heavily in Doom's favor. The problem now is Junker Queen just gets so much life and so much sustain that I think just on a power level point of view, she can just beat what Doomfist is trying to do. On the high ground centric maps, I think that Doomfist is probably a bit better, but on the majority of maps, I think Junker Queen still has the advantage. Still though, if in a no bugged environment, I think that Doom is actually a great ranked choice. Probably not for the pro meta or, you know, whatever, but in ranked, I think is actually a pretty good choice. And I think that, you know, a dive maybe around Doom Pharah Mercy might be the play against a Junker Queen. I could see that, you know, once Doomfist is fixed, of course. Right now he's like unplayable, but Diva. Diva is another interesting character. She has a bad matchup against Queen, which is not great, of course. She doesn't have to directly fight Queen though, which is nice. She's decent with a composition that wants to pick their battles and like pick apart the enemy Junker Queen, never engage them on their terms. I think it's going to be really map dependent on where Diva's good. I would say that that Diva's probably, you know, somewhere in the A tier as well. I think this is probably fine. Maybe Doomfist deserves like down here. I'll do this. I think this is fine. I think Diva's actually pretty good. She's still pretty strong overall. But yeah, unfortunately, it feels like she's going to be played only on the maps that have high ground, you know, verticality. Maps like Nubani, Hollywood Second even. I think that's going to be like where she's really going to shine, but most of the time she's not going to be like amazing. It's really like Junker Queen's eating up like 90% of the pick rate. I'm not going to lie to y'all, but yeah, this is where I would probably place things right now. We're going to have to wait and see how things kind of, you know, level out, but right now it's just like pick Junker Queen, you play Junker Queen, learn how to play Junker Queen, or figure out a way to beat Junker Queen. So it's like pretty much what you're gonna have to do in ranked right now if you want to succeed. Granted, Junker Queen's a really fun character, has a lot of skill expression. I'm gonna be making a Junker Queen guide as well, so if those of you want to learn Junker Queen, you know, just look out for that video. But thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.